Welcome to a series of videos made from the 8mm movies of Clint Jones Jr., which he filmed in the early to mid-1960s. This video is the third of 3 parts that will cover footage he shot in Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula. The map shows the peninsula and connecting mainland and the rail network as it existed at the time of the filming. The original intent was to have Clint narrate. Unfortunately, he passed away as the movies were being digitized, and there were no notes accompanying this reel. Fortunately, I was able to find Bob Anderson, who accompanied Clint on many of his trips then. Bob was able to generate narration for these scenes, so I will let him take over.
It's probably the fall of 1963, and the Sioux Lake Linden job is heading through Ripley in the morning with coal empties for the Dollar Bay Upper Peninsula Power Company dock. Here's the Copper Country Limited arriving at Champion in the morning. It's probably in the springtime because there's just a bit of snow left on the north side of hills. Note the Milwaukee Road pulp and log gondolas in the yard and the Milwaukee engine house. Here's some more as the Copper Country Limited is doing its work at the Champion Station. Of note is the yellow DSS&A semi-truck waiting to load and unload mail and express. On a different day, this looks like the Copper Country Limited arriving Houghton. Then they depart over the lift bridge and climb Hamtrock Hill. This really shows the steep grade in Hancock. That was a challenge for passenger and freight alike. Here's Calumet and Hecla Baldwin 203 switching the shops and yard at Calumet. We see CNH 201 with empty rock cars headed for one of the mines. The location is unknown, but from the light angle it could be going to the Osceola number 13 shaft on the south side of Calumet. It's always interesting the mix of wooden side and steel ore cars that C&H ran. I believe the steel cars were actually ex-mineral range. Here's a short clip of Baldwin 392 switching, probably at Lake Linden. Here's Sioux 385, a Baldwin off the DSS&A at Ripley, coming back from Lake Linden and switching at East Houghton Yard. The second box star might have been left for the Copper Range on the interchange track on the Houghton side of the Bridge Y. Normally, two of the Baldwins at the MU handled the nightly freight to launch in Astoria. The units would be separated at East Houghton in the morning. Only one would be used for the locals to Calumet and Lake Linden, usually alternating days. Russell's plow and spreader were kept at East Houghton Yard, but really infrequently used. Sioux 395, which was a Baldwin demonstrator unit before the DSS&A bought it, takes the Lake Linden local across the bridge with empty coal hoppers for the coal dock in Dollar Bay. The 395 is in fresh Sioux paint, applied in the spring of 1964, and dates the scene to about that time. The Copper Country Limited tackles Hancock Hill once again in the morning, again showing the steep grade. After the Copper Country Limited passed, Sioux Baldwin 388 follows it and picks up two flat cars in Hancock carrying Copper Range Combine number 25, which are destined for the Mid-Continent Railway Museum in North Freedom, Wisconsin. This dates the videos to the fall of 1963. Change has come to the Copper Country. A Sioux GP9 in fresh red and white paint heads the Calumet local through Hancock. The first GP9s appeared in the Copper Country in the spring of 1965. Another scene of the Copper Country Limited heading up Hancock Hill, this time with an additional 3 sleepers on the rear to handle military inductees that evening on the southbound train out of Calumet. The EMDs leading have their work cut out to get the 8-car train up the hill. Now we switch to some scenes from the Copper Range. Here the Copper Range 200 is being hustled out of the roundhouse, ready to go to work. Later, the 200 is northbound with empty Milwaukee Road gondolas for log loading, along with some empty flats and a single car of coal. Here again we have Copper Range 101 being hustled from the roundhouse for a day's work on the Lake Linden line. Note the 3 mineral cars with copper concentrate from the Frida mill headed for the smelter. I don't recall whether this went to the Quincy smelter at Hancock or the C&H at Lake Linden, but Copper Range had no way to smelt the ore anymore in copper country. Copper Range 100 brings about 20 loads of reclaimed Atlantic stamp sands into Houghton from west of town on May 16, 1964. I was there with Clint at the time and got some still slides. The 101 was brought out of the roundhouse and MU'd to the 100, and they took the train to Frida. Also, the 100 and 101 were used fairly consistently as a set for the stamp sand movements after multiple unit controls were installed on them in the winter of 1964. Copper Range 100 takes about 10 cars of Atlantic reclaimed stamp sand up the hill west of Houghton. I believe this scene predates the previous one, probably being in the summer of 1963. The 100 does not yet have the yellow full-length handrails applied sometime in the winter of 1964. Copper Range 101 again, pulling a Milwaukee boxcar and 4 guns of logs off a spur in Painesdale out to the main line. Yeah, now they've got it back together on the main and going by the Champion mine headed for McKeever. The date is probably 1966 or later, since the ex-Green Bay and Western caboose is being used. Here we see the same train passing Toivola. Here we see the same train picking up gonds of logs, probably at Donkin. The engine pulls the gonds off the spur and then runs around on the short siding to shove back to the train. Here's a view of the 100 idling in front of the Houghton Depot. I believe it's the same sequence the Houghton lift bridge lowers, and the 100 goes across the Hancock headed out on the Lake Linden line. Here's the Copper Range 101 leaving Houghton on the last run to McKeever, October 27th, 1972. Here's the last run coming into McKeever, yarding the train, and the crew with a last run sign. I'm pretty sure Clint made the sign for this occasion.
And on that note, our video comes to an end. Here is a link to part 1 and also a link to subscribe. Thank you. Bye for now.